Knicks take game one of the series against the Indiana Pacers. They go up 1-0 in the Eastern Conference semifinals by the final score 121-117. I was wrong. I thought the Knicks were going to lose game one, and I'm happy about it. So thank you. Shout out to the refs. Appreciate you guys. You guys helped us out in that game. Definitely at the end of the game. It's unfortunate that the Knicks needed help from the refs down the stretch of this game, but they did. And I'll take it. Like, look, that's kind of how it goes. And Rick Carlisle, after the game, said it best. He didn't bitch and complain the way Nick Nurse did. He said, look, we put ourselves in those positions for calls to be made against us. So, it sucks. The calls went their way. We have to be better, though. And that's the right way to look at it. So certainly the Knicks were beneficiaries of some of those calls. And it wasn't just late in the game. I mean, the officiating really was tilted the Knicks' way. It felt like the free throws. The Knicks had 7 more free throws than them. And even before that, forget about the free throws. But the style of play for Brunson, when he's just backing guys down, I think the free throws were 11-3 in the first half. And then overall in the game, it was 26-19. But Brunson, when he's backing guys down, when he's just trying to get open, when he's out there just running around, they keep grabbing his jersey, they keep hitting him. Those calls that were not getting called against Philadelphia were getting called against Neesmith, against Nembhard, and those guys both were in foul trouble because of it, and that was huge. Now, ultimately, I think it almost benefited the Pacers because of how good their bench was, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Like, Rick Carlisle, I think, is a really good coach, but I'm a little bit confused with how he played their team down the stretch. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Knicks found a way to get it done. Like an ugly game, not a fun game to watch, almost a frustrating game for the Knicks, but they found a way. So credit the Knicks there. A couple other things from this game, obviously, when we talk about the refereeing, obviously the calls at the end, the drawing the charge by DiVincenzo or the illegal screen, like that's a big play. The kick ball out of bounds, that's a big play where the Knicks had to use a challenge that they wouldn't have had to use. Just so many calls went both ways that felt like the refs definitely controlled the game. The game felt choppy in general. Like it felt like a really choppy game. And if it weren't for some of those calls late, like there was those, like the Knicks kind of had the lead, and then Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson turned it over on back-to-back possessions, one of which obviously the Pacers had to use a challenge on. So just a weird, choppy game the whole way through. I think a part of that is the national TV broadcast, which we'll get a little bit more into. By the way, my head is killing me. So I'm walking on the train and basically where I was standing, it was like sticky. So I went to go stand on the other side of the train. Like there's something on the floor, obviously. And I like bent down under one of like the bars and I lifted my head back up and slammed my head right on top of my head. And my head is killing me. And today I'm like, why is my head killing me? And it's like, oh, because you slammed your head on the train. Anyway, welcome back to the Rami podcast. Hope you're enjoying this so far. A little bit choppy episode too. But that was how the game was, choppy. And look, the refs didn't hand the Knicks the game. The Knicks put themselves in a position to win. They scored 39 points in the fourth quarter. They scored 72 points in the second half. And Jalen Brunson was a monster in the fourth quarter like he always is. He started off hot, had 10 early points, then slowed down. And then he, at one point, of course, he ended the fourth quarter with 21 points. But at one point, the last 3 were free throws. He had 18 points already in the fourth quarter. And the biggest play he made was the assist for the open 3 to Donte DiVincenzo, who again knocks down an open 3 to give the Knicks the win. That was the go-ahead 3. So in the biggest spot, it was the assist that made it work. And Jalen Brunson, we talked about the free throws. Jalen Brunson was frustrated with himself that he was missing free throws. Well, in this game, he didn't miss a free throw at all. He went 14 of 14 from the line. Just one thing I want to read because this is crazy, from Tommy Beer on Twitter, who always has great little Knicks nuggets. Jalen Brunson is the first and only player in NBA history to score 39 plus points while shooting above 45% in 5 consecutive playoff games. First and only ever. Think about how many great scorers we've seen throughout the history of the league. No one has ever done what Brunson is doing. Again, that's 39 plus points on 45% or better shooting in 5 straight playoff games. And Tommy Beer also, he's the first player in NBA history with 40 points and 5 assists in 4 consecutive playoff games. What are we witnessing here? We're witnessing one of the most special players in the league. We're looking at him with numbers being compared to Michael Jordan. That's how special this is right now. 4 consecutive games with 40 plus points. Jerry West, Michael Jordan, Bernard King, and Jalen Brunson. Again, Jalen mother effing Brunson making things happen for this team. And He had 22 going into the fourth quarter, and when they needed him most, he scored 21 points and then makes the game-winning assist in the fourth quarter. The biggest plays down the stretch of this game, Jalen Brunson with the shot clock winding down, that three that he hit with the hand in his face, the pull-up jumpers. It was almost weird. He shot a three. A foul was called. I think it was actually right before Josh Hart had a big play, and we'll get into Josh Hart in a second. Josh Hart grabs the rebound on his own missed free throw, I think before those free throws, and puts it back up and in. That was one of the plays I was just talking to my father about, where Josh Hart's like almost does something wrong, but then his hustle makes up for it and makes it then a better play than it would have been in the first place. That, how many times did that happen with Josh Hart? And that's just him hustling in 48 minutes out there. And again, we'll get into it now. Fine. He had 24 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals, a block in 48 minutes. And how many hustle and energy plays got the Knicks going? Clearly in this game, he didn't want to shoot threes. That's fine. The clutch, the hustle plays, and that put back on the missed free throw. But Jalen Brunson shot a three. I think it was after that foul that sent Josh Hart to the line. He shot a three there. And he hit it, but the three didn't count. I think that kind of got him going from 3-point range. And ultimately he obviously then hits a huge three with a shot clock expiring, hand in his face. Brunson was awesome in this game. The Knicks felt like they were playing from behind a lot in this game because of a slow first half, but I mean, it would have been even worse if Isaiah Hartenstein doesn't nail a half court, like a ridiculous 3-pointer to end the first half, which was nuts. So again, Jalen Brunson bailing them out again. And I don't know how long this can last. I don't know how, but I'm going to stop questioning when it's going to run out, when it's going to stop, because he keeps doing it. He's doing it every freaking night. I mean, it's the same thing. Look on the other side of the bracket right now. Anthony Edwards is going off again to start their game. And actually, he wasn't even that great. Karl-Anthony Towns had 20 points in the first half. Anyone miss Rudy Gobert? I made a joke that Karl-Anthony Towns, is he going to have 6 rebounds in this game with Rudy Gobert out? Because he doesn't rebound the ball as like a huge ass dude, and he just doesn't rebound. But yeah, like, stop asking when guys like Jalen Brunson and guys like Anthony Edwards are going to stop contributing at this level, because it doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. Donte DiVincenzo, at one point in the game, I was like, how does he keep missing point blank shots? He's missing layup after layup after layup in the first half. Finally, he gets going. He has a huge dunk. And then he had a couple plays back and forth with Obi Toppin, who essentially he replaced, right? The Knicks trade away Obi Toppin because they brought in DiVincenzo almost to fill that role of 6-man. Obviously, DiVincenzo then moves into starting lineup. And we know how valuable. Some people were questioning, like, oh, we don't have we have so many guards. Knicks fans, we have so many guards. We don't have a backup power forward. How are we going to survive? DiVincenzo is way better than Obi Toppin. It was the right move. And essentially that's what happened there. But they had a little back and forth where Toppin had the dunk, he hit a three, and then DiVincenzo had the three, and the reverse layup. So that was cool, going back and forth between the two of them. A cool like storyline moment. And then of course he hits the game-winning three, and Mike Breen would have given us a mother effing bang. And I'm sure in his seat at the Garden, because he was at the game sitting there as a fan, he probably went bang as loud as he can say from his seat. I wonder if he does that. But my God, this broadcast, and I mentioned it earlier, the choppiness of the game. I think the breaks are 60 seconds longer. I really think that I know this. I should know this from working Nets games. When they have national broadcasts, the breaks are longer. There might be an extra commercial break. So it felt so much more choppy also because the national broadcast has longer commercial breaks. I think it's 60 seconds. I'm not 100% certain. But to get more commercial time, the breaks are longer. So maybe that's what led to it being choppy. But it's a first game. Like, there is that feeling out period. And then obviously he hits the three. Donte DiVincenzo does. And by the way, speaking of the broadcast, one last thing. They keep saying Reggie's going to be here on Wednesday. Ho, ho, ho. I don't want Reggie to be there on Wednesday. I don't want to listen to that game. I might have to go to the game just so that I don't have to hear Reggie Miller do the game. I was offered Yankee tickets for Wednesday, and I'm like, no, I'm going to watch the Knick game. Is anyone willing to offer me Knick tickets? I can't get into the building. It's too expensive. Actually, something weird. I saw that the Knicks, there were like a lot of tickets, like a couple hundred tickets still available on the secondary market after the first quarter, like at the end of the first quarter. So maybe these brokers in the secondary market is pricing themselves out a little bit. I really want to get into, if you know any way for me to get into game 2, please, I'm begging you. Sometimes these videos get a lot of views. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. I want tickets to see my beloved New York Knickerbockers play game 2 at Madison Square Garden, and so that I don't have to listen to freaking Reggie Miller. That's all I'm asking for. And of course, don't forget, whether it was the right move or not, I said in the moment, oh my God, Donte, you're really trying to take a charge there. When if you fall down there for no reason and it doesn't get called, it messes up the entire defense on the, your whole defense could be screwed up and scrambling because of that. But with a 1-point lead, he draws a charge. So you can't forget that. It's a good play. After the game, Thibs said, we got to be better. And Thibs needs to be better also. That's included. He needs to get the bench more involved. I really think so. You saw how much of an impact the Pacer bench had. And again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We saw how much of an impact they had. Like the Knicks bench could have that impact. You need some more scoring out there. It's going to run out. I mean, again, I love 23 points from Josh Hart, 43 from Jalen Brunson. It doesn't 24, sorry, from Josh Hart, doesn't feel sustainable. OG Anunoby had a couple of big plays. He obviously hits a couple of threes. He had a steal, 2 late steals in the game. That was when they pulled away the first time. Before they turned the ball over a couple of times. I felt like, hey, they should just run this out, and they didn't. Knicks, again, trouble closing out games, but when it really mattered, and this is another credit to Tom Thibodeau, they made all the right plays down the stretch of this game. Despite, after those 2 turnovers, the Knicks still made the big plays, still hit the big free throws. And that's coaching. That's being prepared. And then on the other side, the young guys on Indiana weren't prepared. So the 2 late steals by OG, of course, he had one with his face. And talk about the young guys on Indiana. Tyrese Haliburton, only 6 points and only attempted 6 shots. Like, didn't seem like he wanted the ball. Didn't seem like he wanted the moment. Similar to Joel Embiid, fake all-star. So for at least one game, Wally Szczerbiak can dance on Tyrese Haliburton's parade. But it's going to be a long series. This doesn't really change my opinion on how I feel about this series. Like, one game hasn't shifted the entire way I feel about this series. Now, I did think that the Knicks were going to lose this game. So do I think they'll win game 2 now or lose game 2 now? I don't know. I still thought it would be 2-2 going back to Madison Square Garden for game 5. So I guess if they go up 2-0, I'd feel a little bit better because I think the Knicks can win in Indiana. But this doesn't give me crazy confidence going into game 2. Like, the Knicks didn't play very well. And like I said, it was just a choppy, weird game. And so maybe that's the whole thing. But that's another thing Thibodeau said. We need to be better, but that's part of it is like the flow of the game needs to be better. And like going from the intensity of a game 5 and game 6, really game 6 on the road, to the game 1, the energy was just weird. There's a feeling out process of these two teams. You were just playing against teams that really well, that you got to know. And so both teams were feeling each other out. The crowd was weird. It was quiet for most of the game. They really came alive late second half of the fourth quarter, but I don't know if someone was there and tell me I'm wrong, but it felt on TV, and my friend was texting me like, yeah, it feels like the crowd is just a little off, maybe like not prepared. There was a little bit of like I said, just a weird feeling. And maybe if you're sitting through those commercial breaks, those long ass breaks, and you're at the crowd at Madison Square Garden, it does feel a little choppy, and that can feel a little different for you. And in the second quarters, when it really started to take off, the pace picked up when TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin came into the game. They took off for the Pacers, and it's incredible to me. How were they not on the court to close the game, those two guys? And I know, listen, Obi Toppin hitting threes, transition dunks, TJ McConnell, pest on defense, getting into the paint, getting whatever he wanted in transition. Really, those two guys were huge for Indiana, and they're not in the game late in the game in the biggest spots of the game. And to me, that changed the entire game. When they were on the floor, they were incredible. The Pacers bench, and I actually want to look this up because I know the Pacers bench had a ton of points, but I do want to see the plus minus for those guys because it's just weird. It's weird that they weren't there late in the game. And let me see if I could pull it up. I mean, which website is going to show me their plus minus? I think ESPN does. This is great live radio, team stats, box score. Let's do it. Plus minus. Obi Toppin was a +4 and TJ McConnell was a +9. Those guys were both plus. Every single one of the Pacers starters was a minus. Every single one of the Pacers bench players, the 4 that played, were all in the plus. And Isaiah Jackson played the least. He was a +13. Obi Toppin played 19 minutes. He was a +4. And in 22 minutes, TJ McConnell was a +9. Like, how do you pull those guys late in the game? And if you look at the Knicks, it was the exact opposite. DiVincenzo +10, Hart +4, Brunson, obviously, because he played the full game. Brunson and Anunoby were +12. And then Hartenstein was +9. Everyone on the Knicks bench was a minus. Achua -6, Robinson -8, and McBride -13. I still think the Knicks need to find a way to play their bench guys more than 4 minutes for Achua, 12 minutes for Robinson, and 11 for McBride. That's not sustainable. We need to see Alec Burks. There's going to need to be more guys in the series. And early on, Thibs did go to Achua, maybe because it was a close game. He was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. He went to this lineup that I had never seen the Knicks run. And I tweeted this out. Stat people come at me, like, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I've never seen this lineup before. But they ran a Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, OG Anunoby, Precious Achua, and Mitchell Robinson lineup. I haven't seen that lineup in regular season or postseason. Definitely not in the postseason. I haven't seen that in the regular season either. So, and I watch every minute of Knicks basketball. If someone else has seen it, please tell me if those guys have played minutes. I don't remember ever seeing that. So I'm not shocked that lineup didn't work. They had never played together. So I still think they need to somehow combat the scoring that the Pacers have. They need to find a way to combat that bench scoring, because clearly that's a crazy advantage that the Pacers have. But in the second half, the Knicks scored a ton. They scored 72 points in the second half. Ridiculous. Rick Carlisle, another reason why this series is going to be a long series, despite him not playing those guys down the stretch of the game. He is a really good head coach, and he always makes the right decisions. He's going to make adjustments. I feel like the Knicks were playing from behind constantly, and anytime they got a shred of momentum, an ounce of momentum, he called timeout. Like, his timeouts felt like impeccably timed every time. Like, every time I was like, oh, it's starting to go the Knicks' way, he called a timeout like before it tipped too hard to the Knicks. So really good coach. Again, he didn't complain. I did see Miles Turner complain. He's like, oh, it's going to be interesting to see the last 2-minute report. Shut up, dude. Like, you saw that bitching and complaining about the refs after games doesn't work out in your favor. And that's why a veteran head coach like Rick Carlisle didn't complain about them. A championship head coach didn't complain about the refs, whereas a player who's won nothing ever in his career, and Miles Turner, was complaining about the refs after the game. Overall, I'm happy. I'm happy with the win. Like, the Knicks were better in crunch time. That's what it mattered. They made the right moves. They made the right decision, the right plays, because they're prepared. There's still a lot of room for growth. That's a good thing. Like, it's a good thing to have room to grow and still be winning games. And Thibodeau said, we'll get back, we'll go in the room, we'll watch this film, we'll see what happens, and we'll get back to work, and we'll continue to get better. So I expect the Knicks to be a lot better in game 2. And considering they won game 1, being better in game 2 is really good. That's a good thing. Now, speaking of the playoffs, just a couple other things. My wife walks around here during the playoffs, and I don't know if she knows I'm watching the playoffs or what sport it is or what the playoffs are, but I just hear her randomly, 2 things. Randomly says Jalen Brunson to herself. As far as I know, she doesn't know who that is. And the other thing is she started singing the BK song tonight, the Burger King Have It Your Way song, which is funny because they play that commercial so many times. So those were also just 2 funny things from tonight. Now, quickly, before we go, almost done here. The New York Mets, bounce back spot. If you're getting swept in Tampa, no day off. Sometimes that's a good thing. Travel to St. Louis, win a game in St. Louis. Find a way to win. Brandon Nimmo, go ahead, bomb. Boom, boom, boom. Blow a 3-run lead. Really a good start still. Quality start from Sean Manaea. I don't know how to say it. 6 innings, 3 runs. That's a quality start. They found a way to win. Nimmo the homer, and the biggest thing, the most important thing, Edwin Diaz back in the saddle, back on the horse. The day after you blow the save, no time off. I love it. I love the move. Carlos Mendoza, put him right back out there. He gets the save. It looked easy. The fastball velo was all the way back up. Good job, Edwin Diaz. Good job, Mets. Good job, Carlos Mendoza. Bad job, Steve Cohen. I hope he's not tweeting about the Mets game tonight, because he wasn't watching the Mets game. Steve Cohen, that's right, was sitting courtside at the Knicks game, right behind Rick Carlisle, next to the Pacers bench. So, Steve Cohen, if you have anything to say about the Mets, I don't care. Don't want to hear it. Didn't want to hear it last night. Definitely don't want to hear it tonight, because you weren't even watching. All right, I was watching the Mets. I'm not even a Mets fan. I love the Mets. I'm not a Mets fan. And I was watching the Knicks, but I had the Mets on the side. I got to do my job. I got to know what's going on. So, Steve Cohen, I'm better at being a Mets fan than you. So please stop it with the Mets tweets. All right, that's going to do it for me. Rami Levy podcast. Like, subscribe, share it with a friend. I'm not wearing it now because let's go Knicks, wearing a Knicks hat, but we have some swag from Huga House. So use my code Rami, R-A-M-I. I got to figure out what's going on with this headache. Maybe I have a bump on my head. Maybe I should put ice on it. I'm not sure. But Huga House, code Rami. Rami Levy podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Subscribe, like it. Share with a friend. Until next time, please. I appreciate you all for watching, listening, and supporting. See ya.